Next on our agenda is our Utah Schools for the Deaf and Blind portion of our meeting. We'd like to invite Carl Empey to come forward if he wants to give his presentation. Come right here to this bottom portion. Superintendent Coleman, if you want to join us up here as well, you're welcome.
Good morning, Madam Chair, board members, and staff. It's a pleasure to be here. I have two financial reports to present this morning. The first is our 12 months ended June 30th. They are in preliminary form. We're waiting for the state to do a calculation on post-employment benefits.
Sorry, I'm going to interrupt you really quick. Sorry. Apparently, those mics aren't picking up very well online, so go ahead and hit the button on the other one. Sorry, I didn't notice that sooner. Okay, thank you.
Should I start over? Okay, good morning. The two financial reports I have this morning are the fiscal year that ended June 30th, 2020 for the 12 months. They are in preliminary form. We are waiting for the state to do their calculation of other post-employment benefits and charge us the respective expense for it. And that's why these are marked preliminary. There's the three standard financial reports, the statement of net position that used to be called the old balance sheet. There's a statement of revenues, expenses, and changes in net position, which is the old income statement, and then a statement of cash flow. There's a lot of numbers here. I think the key report is we ended the year financially solvent, and it was a good year. And I'd be happy to sit down with any of you and walk through these numbers and reports specifically upon your request and not maybe take your time this morning. Are there any questions just on the June 30th year-end financial reports?
I see no questions. Go ahead and proceed.
Okay, great. Thank you. The next financial report is for our first month, July 31st. There's not a whole lot to report. We had inflows and transfers of about $3.7 million. I'm just going to round. Our expenses were $1.1 million, so it left us with a surplus of $2.6 million. So we're in a good position as we start the year off. We don't have a student count yet. We will have that in our next monthly report of the number of students that we serve. Our land grant enrichment fund balance as of July 31st is approximately $1.3 million, and our donated funds is approximately $1.2 million. The report that's on the screen is the supporting detail that gives all the line items that summarize in the green there, the $3.7 million in our revenues. Down below that is our expenses of the $1.1 million. The report behind that is just the donated funds summary report showing the balances in each of the respective categories. And I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Okay, I don't see any. Oh, there we go. No, I don't see any hands raised. Oh, Mike Haynes, go ahead. Thank you, Board Member Haynes.
Thank you, Chair Cummins. I was just curious about the donated funds. Is this funds that have come through the foundation, or is this in addition to those?
This is as of August or July, we've created a separate account for the foundation. So the donated funds that you have here are a combination of the foundation's donated funds and the donated funds of the school. The majority of this, if you look on the donated funds, is about $900 and some odd $1,000, which is the foundation money, which is coming from one of our extremely generous donors.
Fantastic. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, there are no other questions. Thank you.
Great. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, hold on just a second. Let me turn your mic on. There you go. Go ahead. Okay, go ahead, Board Member Cannon.
Thank you. As I looked over the 2021 USDB financial report, you had a box that showed estimated revenue, and from the state, you're getting 78% of your revenue comes from the state. And then my question's about the federal. It lists 3.5% of revenue coming from federal.
And that's,
I thought it would be higher than that. I thought for special needs kids, it was more like 10%. Can you just
yeah, we
enlighten
really
me?
do not receive much money from the federal government for our programs. We rely primarily on the state transfers that funded on an annual basis by the legislature.
And so, don't we get about 10% of our money from federal funding? Am I wrong about that? Is it siphoned off to go to other places, or?
I can't speak on behalf of USBE, but all I know is on USDB, we receive very little in federal funds.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Impey. Okay, next is the superintendent's report. Superintendent Coleman. Okay, let me, hit your request to speak button. Okay.
Okay, board
Superintendent.
members, got the microphone working. It's nice to be with you. Board Member Cannon, I had the same question early on, and we get approximately $250,000, $300,000 for special ed money out of a $40 million budget. And then we also get some money for the child nutrition program. That's federal money. There are small amounts, but it's less than $500,000, I think, overall. And I think a lot of that has to do with most of the students we serve are out in the districts, and so they probably get the special education money, and the state set up schools for deaf and the blind, and so it's kind of their responsibility to fund most of it. So we do get some money for preschool and some for elementary school in our campus programs, but that's maybe 250 to 300 kids total. So that probably explains why. I thought it was interesting too. I thought, well, we're special ed, we should be highly funded by them, but no, the state really does most of the work there. Board members, I have a few items for you. The first one is good news, of course. In the most recent special session of the legislature, they fully funded our teacher salary increases. So that was taken care of this year, and they were very good to work with. I have to compliment them. When they found out about the oversight that happened earlier, they immediately went to work in getting that resolved. And we had everyone from leadership all the way to individual legislators even calling me the Sunday before saying, okay, we think we've got everything lined up, don't worry. And so our teachers will, in fact, I think our business office has already calculated all that, and our teachers should be made harmless all the way to the beginning of their contract, which was August 1st. And so they really didn't miss out on too much, and that's anything, they'll be held harmless and made whole on that. So that's great news. The next thing I just put on your radar for our next meeting, we will have our annual report, and we'll send that to you earlier in your board packet, of course, and we'll review that with you before we submit that to the legislature. I think it's actually due in October or November to the public education, I guess it's the appropriations subcommittee, but anyway, we'll make sure that you have that, and we'll have time to discuss it in your board meeting if you have any questions about it. Just a quick update on school opening. Of course, that's been our main focus and heavy focus the last 2 weeks. We started a couple weeks ago in Ogden and Springville, and last week we opened schools here in Salt Lake, and so far so good. We've had about 8 requests from educators for special accommodations, safety accommodations beyond that which is in our school reopening plan that you approved. And as you remember in that plan, we said we would be do everything we could to accommodate them on a case-by-case basis. And I think we've been able to find good accommodations and meet most of their requests. And so things look good so far. We're still working through a few things with a couple, but it's been a very good, healthy, productive, interactive process with them. And so thought I'd report back to you on that. So, and every morning we all come in and get our little temperatures taken at the front desk and go to our different places. We still have a lot of people working from home whenever telecommuting makes sense, or teleworking, I guess is the term we use now. But our educators and the aides and others are just doing a great job so far, and I think there's a great sense of excitement to be back in school, of course. Most of our PIP services are being done remotely with families with occasional visits when necessary, and that's with the infants where our teachers visit them in their homes. In a normal time, they would go to the home for almost every visit. So we're working through all that, and it seems to be going pretty well. I'm going to have the associate superintendents in a few minutes come up one at a time and just give you a report from what they're seeing right where the rubber meets the road. Another item you might be interested in on our Facebook page and other social media, we have posted an interview that I did with KSOP. I do that about every 6 months or so with Dick Harmon there, who's just really great and very supportive, and it's fun. We get feedback from people and say, oh, we heard you, and we talked about the different things that we've done uniquely in this time to meet the needs of our families and students and teachers and other staff members, and so that's fun. If you feel like listening to that, you can find it on our social media. We're also creating a little simple video training for new board members that with just to onboard them and kind of introduce them to the Utah Schools for the Deaf and Blind, understanding that not many board members are elected even knowing that there's a special responsibility for USDB. And so if you have any input on items that you would like us to include, I know we've asked you before, but we've had staff here at the State Board office helping, and even Jeff Van Holten went down and was filmed and talked about it. And so we thought that would be helpful to your colleagues who come on board new, which we're anticipating in January, of course, several of those. And then if you have any other questions for me, I'd be happy to answer those. But if not, I'd like the associate superintendents one at a time, maybe School for the Deaf first. Michelle, you can come up and just sit at that table and just share with board members what school opening has been like, answer any questions, and then we'll have Susan Patton come up and swap places with you when you're finished.
Okay. I'm excited to be here in person. I like visiting with people face to face. The children have equally been just as excited. Our students, even with, as you have imagined with all students, are elated to be back together again. Our students, it's even more so as they are able to communicate again. Sadly, it's very difficult for many of our students to communicate at home with some family members, and so coming to school is a huge deal. And so they were been excited. We had to help them with social distancing because they like in the culture of the deaf culture, when you've had a good conversation with someone, you end that first conversation with a hug, and that's from then going forward. That's how you greet other people that you've met. I guess if it doesn't go well, you know really quickly. But they're pretty excited. The big concern or the big issue that we've had has been with masks. We are finding even the clear shields are problematic. So Superintendent Coleman and I took time and we're visiting with the children. And I don't know, I brought my mask. It's just as bad as any of the ones you've got that have cloth on it because it fogs up so quickly. The clear shields catches glares all over the place so you can't see what they're saying. And then, of course, you're signing and you flip that thing off and knock it over, and then the teacher has to come over and get in your personal space to get it on again. And so we've told the children just social distance as much as possible, which I could see you from here to there signing, so that would be easily done. And our classrooms are really large, and we've had a good turnout with that. The children seem to be responding well. Some of them choose to wear their masks at school, some of them do not. We ask that you make sure when they're in close proximity in the hallways, and of course when they're on the van and transportation, that they have those masks on. And overall, generally, things are going well. It wasn't as eventful as we thought it would be, actually. Other than they're really excited to be together, and it just does my heart a great deal of good to see children at the schools again. So. Any questions for me?
Okay, we have a couple of questions from board members. Do we want to wait until the other superintendent speaks, or do you want to ask your question now? Board member Gravitt, do you want to wait or ask your question now? Okay, go ahead.
No, Superintendent Coleman, I appreciate your report, and I wanted to just ask you, you said you had some teachers asking for accommodations. I'm wondering, can you give us a sense of, like, an example of what that was and how you dealt with it?
Sure.
Just so we have a sense of what's going on.
That's a great question.
Thank you.
Most of these teachers say the plan, I feel a little concerned still because it doesn't address this or that, and I have a special condition. And so we work with them through our HR manager, who's Dave Laycock, and they share their medical information with him, and they don't share it with us directly, so they can maintain confidentiality. But when he validates that, then they also have to ask for a specific safety protocol or something that they would like beyond what we're normally providing. For some of them, it has been to wear a clear mask instead of no mask with the students. For some of them, it has been items like their specific assignments are different. One teacher is a kindergarten teacher, and so in some instances, she has to change a diaper, and she felt like that might expose her to something, and so we went talked about that. Others, gosh, what were some of their? Usually, it's a particular health concern where they're at risk. Interestingly enough, some of our most medically challenged teachers have not asked for accommodations, and we have gone to them and said, listen, normally we aren't putting plexiglass between the teacher and the child in a lower elementary class. With you, we really think that we should. We'd like to go the extra mile and do this, and they've been very grateful for that. And so it's kind of a myriad of things like that, and we've said, okay, for you, then we're going to do this, as long as, but monitor to make sure it doesn't affect the learning experience of the child. And so we've kind of gone back and forth and helped them to know that we're very supportive of them.
Board member Davis, do you have a question?
Okay. I don't have a question. I just want to say that the Office parody musical was delightful.
That was Susan.
That was Susan's crew up in Ogden.
Board member Lear.
And I just had a question for either one of you. Have there been any children sick or any staff members either who have tested positive or have shown symptoms?
We have had, of our workforce of about 560, 580, around that, we've had 8 people since March who have tested positive. None of them have been on our campuses. None of them contracted it at school. They all got it at home and caught it early, and so we haven't had any exposures on campus, but we have had 8 employees throughout the state in different areas who have gotten COVID, yes.
And just to follow up, so have there been any since school started?
None
Either
since-
employees or students?
I had one student that was reported to me that yesterday that they, before the first day of school, weren't feeling well, so mother kept them home.
Okay.
And thankfully she did, because the child did test positive for COVID, but never actually came to campus and never actually showed up. So that was the only instance.
Thank you. Thanks very much.
Okay. That's all the questions. Let me just double check here. No more questions. So we want to invite.
I think I'm supposed to do this really quick. Just to kind of mirror what Michelle was saying and Superintendent Coleman, the School for the Blind, we have different needs in the School for the Deaf, and so our instruction has to be very, very much hands-on. And so we have been stronger as far as masks are concerned. And honestly, it has gone so much better than we had anticipated. Our teachers and staff members are wearing the masks. Most of the kids are wearing masks. Of course, we have kids with multiple disabilities, and if they're not able to take the mask off themselves, then we're not requiring a mask because of safety reasons. And to answer the question as far as any students, we have had 3 students not test COVID positive, but the parents have kept them home because of symptoms, and then another family member has been exposed. And I think that one of the surprises for our teachers is that the parents have been so very, very cooperative. And they have been proactive in making sure that we know that there's a family member that's been exposed. We're keeping this child home before, so that transportation doesn't even pick them up. We also had a situation where we're having them, the parents fill out a little checklist every time the kids get on the van. And the parent didn't check one of the boxes, and that child came to school. But it was an inadvertent, she didn't mean to not check the box, but so we're able to follow up on those things. So I feel like we're really monitoring the situations very well. And overall, I feel like it's been a success. I think our staff feels like it's a success, and I also feel like we're very responsive to the staff needs and their concerns. We want to hear from them, and we've given them multiple avenues to be able to do that, and welcomed it and encouraged that we need to know what your concerns are. Do you feel like you have the right PPE? Do you feel like the social distancing is taking place? Because if we don't know what those issues are, even the smallest, then we can't address them. Is there any questions for me? I am smiling under this, just so you know. Okay.
I see no questions. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thanks, Susan. Last thing I'll say, board members, before checking out, letting you get back to your other meetings, is I have tremendous gratitude and respect for our staff members. I really feel like we didn't get a summer this year like we normally do. And administration-wise, we always work through the summer, but it was all the normal work on top of preparing for this. And I think just the emotional intensity of preparing for this and being concerned about what our families and the public and the board and the legislature and the media and everybody else might say if we got something wrong. And I really need to just compliment our staff. They've been awesome. And so now we're off and running, and it's time for us administratively to start preparing for next year with budgets and all the other things we do. And our educators are, of course, in the classroom doing what they do best. And so it's just, ironically, with less school since March, it has been more intense professionally for everyone. And our people have really, really stepped up, from the top administrators to the aides and to our facility staff, everyone else, top to bottom throughout the state. They've done an amazing job. And just as a superintendent, my gratitude goes out to them. And I wanted to acknowledge the tremendous professionalism of everybody in the organization. And so with that, that's my report, Madam Chair. And unless there are any questions, that's all we had for you today.
Okay, I see no questions.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.